Okay, now if you were not a client of mine, what would you have to do as an employer? A lot of things. You have to make your payroll tax deposits on time, and that's a function of how much your payroll is. If you're a large employer, you got to do it weekly, within a few days of payday. If you're a smaller employer, you got a little more time to do it, but you have to pay your payroll taxes on time. You have to get work comp insurance. This requires usually a prepayment, cash outlay. If you use me, it's pay as you go. You have to get a TDI policy, okay? And you have to get health insurance coverage. You have to write your own handbook, employee handbook, to give to your employees. As an employer, you have to basically file on a monthly basis, depending on your size, your work comp audit. You have to do a work comp audit. But let's just say you're a smaller company. We'll just go down a laundry list for a smaller company. On a quarterly basis, you have to file a 941. That's a federal income tax form, payroll tax form, I should say. And it lists your gross wages by employee, the amount withheld, and things of that nature. And that's a major form to fill out. That's due quarterly. The state also has a quarterly form to fill out. Okay? Quarterly, at a minimum, you'll have to do a work comp insurance audit and a payment. TDI, you'll have to do a quarterly TDI insurance audit and payment. Quarterly, you have to do a state unemployment tax filing. Now this entails not only paying, but listing every employee, with their earnings, up to what amount, et cetera, plus you have to know your percentage to pay. Plus the training tax percentage is in there too. Federal unemployment tax, that has to be paid quarterly. The form is not done quarterly, it's done annually. Okay? That's another crazy form. Health insurance, every month you have to let the insurance company know who your employees are. If there are changes, you have to pay the premium before the first of the month. I know I'm forgetting something, I just can't think of what I'm forgetting. But this is just a short laundry list of what you've got to do as an employee, as an employer. Then annually, you've got to do W-2s. Okay, we do that as part of the service. It's not even included in as a cost. That's a freebie for us. 2-3 years down the road, your employee comes back and says, I didn't file my taxes for 2008 and I can't find my W-2. Can you give me another one? Most employers will pull their hair out. Let's just give us a call and the computer has it, we spit one out. Piece of cake. They keep changing the laws. They keep changing the tax forms. Like this year, they changed the 941 form because some of the medical payments, or the COBRA payments, I should say, were tax deductible. Some of them, you had to put that in. The small employer is not going to really stay up on all this stuff, all these changes, and he'll be totally caught off guard. And let me tell you one of the things that happens to a lot of employers, just because they don't know how the federal tax system works. They normally pay their taxes every 2 weeks like they're supposed to the feds. They electronically pay it in. 1 week they forget and they don't pay it. They don't realize they didn't pay it. And then they go right on back to paying it all. A few weeks into the next quarter, the IRS will send them a little notice. You owe us X dollars that you didn't pay, plus the penalty for not paying on time, plus the interest on the money you didn't pay them. Okay? So let's assume it happened the first week of the quarter that you didn't pay. So you went a whole quarter and didn't pay that first quarter. What the IRS does is take the second payment you made, apply it to the first, which means you've now missed the second. Okay? Then when you pay the third, they apply it to the second, which means, oh, you missed the third. So it all gets penalized, and you owe interest for each of these things. And on, say, a $10,000 liability, you can end up owing $40,000, $50,000 and be total panic, because the IRS is not too friendly with their letters. They'll say, this is what you owe. If you don't pay us, we're going to lien your company. And it just throws you into a tizzy. And most people just go ahead and pay it just to get rid of those bad guys. But if you know what you're talking about and you know the way the system works, you pick up the phone, you give them a call, you explain what happened, and everything's fine. You make the payment that you missed with this interest on that one, and all this cascading disappears. But if you don't ask them, you've been had. one of the many traps people fall into. And unless you know what you're doing, you're in trouble. So, if you had me, instead of doing it yourself, that penalty and interest would never have been there. Plus, you'll never get a letter from the IRS again. I get them all, not you. And the one thing that really throws panic into people is a letter from the IRS. It gets the blood pressure right up there. And that's another reason for using us.